guys, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sophia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and pretty much all topics self-defense. Before we start today, please take a moment to rate the podcast. You guys, we are at 66 reviews and 4.9 stars on Spotify. My guest speakers deserve way more than that. So if you could take a moment and hit those stars and give an honest review, which is always 5, of course, that would be lovely. This episode is brought to you by Big Tech's Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear for responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. They value firearms training and support firearms instructors nationwide. I think I said that twice. Moving on. They even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you as the consumer reach out, you are taken care of. All right. That wasn't too rough, right? I don't read that ad every single episode or anything. Well, the voice you were hearing earlier in the episode is Tre'Von Barber. This is probably the third time we've talked about scheduling or something like that? That's typically how it goes. Tre'Von, I'm so glad you are here. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the guest speakers or to the... Oh, God. What is happening? Hold on.
Awesome podcast.
Oh, no. Can you fire yourself from your podcast? I would love for you to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Oh my goodness! What's up, y'all? My name is Tre'Von Barber. I am Tre'Von Barber of Barber out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. There's gonna be so much editing if you edit this out.
It's gonna be great. Oh no, we're keeping it. Brendan, we're keeping it.
All right, I'm gonna do that again. I'm more professional than that. My name is Tre'Von Barber. I run a small training company out of Rock Hill, South Carolina called Barber Training Solutions, and I'm also the affiliate marketing director for Right to Bear.
Wonderful. Go. That was great. That was so good. Solid. We're definitely keeping both though, because if we take life too seriously all the time, then we're not enjoying it. So
supposed to take life seriously at all?
Oh, I thought we were.
It's not like you make it out to Sing Alive.
That's a good point. Okay. Noted. I know. I do this to learn. So I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I have so many things I want to talk about with you today. And to make this episode even more fun, we also have a lag. So we are going to be cutting each other off probably left and right, but it just is going to add to the spice of the episode. It's going to be good.
All good.
So I know you are a marketing director, and I want to hear all about Right to Bear because you told me a little bit about it before the episode started, and it sounds like an incredible opportunity for the listeners. And just to be clear, of course, this is not an officially sponsored episode. I just think it's a great opportunity to give, people who are gun owners good resources. And this sounds like an incredible one. But let's start with you. So how did you get into firearms? I love that question. It's always just so good. So exciting to see where people take it. So how'd you get started?
Absolutely. So I got started just from being a boy. There's no guns in the house. We weren't like a gun family. They were all ex-military, except for my father. So my uncle was ex-military, my grandfather, all my other uncles, etc., all served in the military. So I was aware of guns, and we always we were a self-defense type of family. As one of those, you mess around, you're going to find out. So that was kind of the mindset. But in college, once I turned 21. I was just a guy. I liked, fast cars and tattoos, and got into the guns once I turned 21. So that was it. Just being a Southern boy and wanted to learn how to shoot. So taught myself in the woods at college.
Wonderful. And when you say Southern, where did you grow up?
Rock Hill, South Carolina. So about 30 minutes from Charlotte, North Carolina. We're right on the border.
Wonderful. I didn't know you're living where you also grew up. Okay. That's so exciting. Absolutely.
Nope, sorry. I know we got that lag.
we do. No, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I just went to school, University of South Carolina, and basically just came right back. Good old Southern story.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's wonderful. I only drove into Lawrence, South Carolina,
Okay.
recently for the tactical games, and then it
Yep.
was canceled promptly. And Lisa and I have a whole episode on that journey. So if you're listening and you want to check that episode out next, it's a wild ride. 'Cause something like the intro we had here, it's something like that. But it looked absolutely gorgeous. I remember being there and thinking I should come back when there's not a hurricane. So I
Oh,
don't know if
that's
that's close to where you're at, but
so it's around 2.5 hours. You were going to
okay.
where were you going? I know exactly where you're going, but it's completely out of my brain now.
Where I was going to Lawrence, and then we were only like probably 60 miles from Charlotte, if that
Yeah.
helps at all.
No, I was trying to remember the name of the facility. I can see it in my
Oh,
head, but I can't remember what it was called.
Sawmill Training
Saw.
Complex.
Yep. Awesome place.
I'm very surprised I remembered that. But no, absolutely. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So you were interested in guns. So what did you witness in your household? Was it like hunting? You said there was defense involved, but was there
Yeah.
also hunting and a variation of
Nothing
nothing like that?
gun related at all. Never been hunting, or at the time I'd never been hunting. No like shotgun shooting, not even like plinking out in the countryside. Just there's like two family get-togethers where they took some shotguns and shot cans, but that was it. I was a Boy Scout my entire life, so I took like BB shooting and 22. I think we did one shotgun class in Boy Scouts, but that was it. On the defensive side, I grew up wrestling, so I started wrestling when I was 5 years old through sophomore year of college and got a back injury, so couldn't compete anymore. And then like learned like MMA and boxing and all that stuff growing up. But so that's where like the defensive sort of mindset or side came into play. And then just once I turned 21, got heavy into wanting to learn to shoot just because I liked guns. But still had the competitive mindset coming from the wrestling background, but couldn't wrestle because of the back injury. And
Right.
realized that there was a local USPSA club like 15 minutes away from where I was working at the time. And that got me hooked.
Absolutely. Ooh,
Yeah.
I love that. So you were able to keep the competition spirit alive. Okay. Yeah. I love to hear a story where people come from a background of hand-to-hand grappling, something like that, and then they move into firearms. I feel like it really says something about your kind of awareness of your body and 3D space and what it's like to get uncomfortable and close with another person and how quickly things can go badly. And then you have that perspective to take into owning something like a firearm and carrying it defensively. So it's a perspective that I respect very much. So yeah, you mentioned USPSA. What has that journey been like for you?
So that's probably been one of the biggest door openers for me that I didn't realize would be a door opener. So got into USPSA in 2017 or 2018, just as a hobby that I couldn't afford, but I figured it out. Like we all do, just figured out how to make it happen. And was quickly taken under the wing of two GMs, just local GM guys who saw me really want to do good. Sorry if you can hear that notification going off.
Okay.
Just wanted me to do good. So I started competing like every single weekend just because I was a college kid who worked Monday through Friday and had nothing to do on the weekends. And then I think about 6 to 8 months after deciding I was really going to make it a thing, I went from B class to master, like in about that year time frame. And I think 2 years after that, I started teaching like concealed weapon permits. And then another 2 years after that, I started teaching more of your intro to competition stuff. Because essentially I thought of, well, if I can teach myself in around a 6 to 8 month span to go from basically never having touched a handgun until I turned 21 to a masterclass shooter within, the next year of learning about firearms, I can probably teach others to do that. So I took around 2 years to just learn how to teach and how to deliver information better before I decided, all right, let's see if I can start basic and just teach concealed weapon permits on this, state structured lesson plan. But yeah, USPSA has opened a lot of doors as I've gotten better as a shooter, as I've made more connections and taught more people. I traveled around the country teaching. So yeah, it's been amazing. I've loved the journey so far. This year is going to be the year of hitting Grandmaster and actually taking a little more time to reteach myself to get better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ooh, I love that. So there's a question I want to ask, but to understand your structure, your life structure a little bit more, how often do you teach? What does like a week look like for you as a marketing director, a teacher, and a competitor and a dad? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So right now, my teaching has slowed down a lot because selfishly, I'm trying to put more time and effort into, like I said, kind of not reteaching, but training myself because I was my original teacher. Not to sound, I don't know, not to sound arrogant, but I feel like I have all the answers to get to that level of Grandmaster. I just have to be able to put that effort and energy into doing it because it takes a lot of effort and energy to hit that level, but then to compete and stay at that level. So this year has been a year of just trying to put it back into myself. So as far as what I'm teaching, I'm basically rolling into teaching a lot of private lessons. That's around 3 days a week that I'll have a private client, whether it's the same repeat clients or a new. Over the past 2 years, I was teaching around 500 people a year, and that was probably hitting a different state a month, and then a CWP class once a month. So it was decently heavy with having a 9 to 5. So now it's a little more manageable.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you sharing that. It gives me a better look into what you are going through. And you know what? I don't know. I want to go back to something you said. You said something about, not wanting to be arrogant, but I think it's actually very honest of you to accept that you have what it takes. You have the knowledge. Mm-hmm. You know what you need to do to take the next step. So actually, it would probably be a waste of time to go and maybe take classes just to work on like one specific skill that maybe isn't your greatest weakness or something. Like it's actually, I think, a very noble thing that you're saying, okay, it's actually all up to me now. Like I just need to take that time. So Absolutely. That's a perspective I feel like I've heard a lot recently. Almost like there's this pressure to go and take another class with that flashy instructor, that like that person that everyone's been telling you to go take a class with, when really, if you're aware of some of your weaknesses and you have enough of a skill base and you have taken enough classes where, you've been given some tools to work with, but you haven't had the time to work with them, probably a better financial investment to maybe just buy more ammo and get that range membership and go and do that. So I don't know. I like that you said that because I think it brings light to something like that. So how do you think you'll structure your training with the knowledge you have to make the difference between master and Grandmaster?
Good question. Just dedication. So I'm a quasi structured person. So I'll structure something if I know for a fact it has to be done by a certain deadline. So I may try to set a deadline for myself and say, I'm going to hit it by this. However, life tends to life and stuff comes up to where, I've got a daughter. I'm a husband. I'm trying to essentially build a brand inside of a brand. So I think the best way that I'm going to have to make it happen is get up early and go to sleep a little bit later. So doing a dry fire session in the morning, a dry fire session in the evening. What I've also been doing is getting to the range an hour before my clients, setting up what I want them to go over, and then I'll just run it ahead of time, and then they'll get out there and they'll do their thing. So it's less flashy than what the vast majority of people will probably think it should be, and it's more so just get out of your feelings, get out of your way, and just do it. So I tell most of my students or people in the past, just like you said, you have the information, you have the knowledge now. Now it's up to you to practice it, to hone it, to whittle away at all the unnecessary stuff and only keep the absolute knowledge or information that you truly need to be very focused and very driven. So I think that's going to be the goal. I'm going to start, what's the day? Thursday? Yeah, I'm starting on Monday.
Ooh, how exciting.
This weekend I have a match that I'm putting on. We run a local match, so all my efforts for now. But starting on Monday, of course, we're going to hit it hard because we also have the South Carolina State Championship in like 3 weeks.
Ooh, wow. Okay. Yeah. How are you feeling about that right now? Do those 3 weeks feel like something that will make you feel, is that enough time to make yourself feel better 3 weeks from now, or is it kind of like you're at where you're at and you're going to do your best?
So another place where I don't want to sound arrogant, but I already have and this has been told to me from my buddies who are pretty much all grandmasters as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me, coffee.
Oh, good.
I have the skill set of the grandmaster shooters, right? So I have the ability so I can press the trigger the same way, I can aim the same way, I can move the same way. Now comes the fact of being able to execute that each and every time that little buzzer goes off. So that's the consistency portion that I need to hone in, and that's a mental game thing. So I recently shot the Caribbean Open in Puerto Rico, which is, if you've never been, you absolutely have to go. It's a beautiful match. It's so much fun.
Sounds fun.
It is.
Caribbean Open. Okay.
Oh yeah, in Puerto Rico. It'll be every year in February, so make sure you put it on your calendars.
Okay.
But there, I kind of had this aha moment, or just clicked. One of my coaches, Sean Griffith, give him a shout out. He runs a training camp out of Georgia. He's a very high level GM, performs every single time he touches a gun. He aggravates me with how consistently good he is.
What a good problem to have.
Oh yeah, but he's an amazing instructor. He actually works at FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center down in Georgia. And I instead of taking a full blown class, I went and paid him for, I think, 3 or 4 hours of very specific critiques, and it opened my eyes because he and I were shooting so very close to each other, time wise and skill wise, but he was so much more consistent with his, and mine was 70% of the time I was there. So in Puerto Rico, I implemented a much more specific mental preparation before my stages. So I had 3 stages that I completely bombed on the very first day. And it was one of those things that was just like, dude, you either figure your crap out right now, or you're going to be sitting in, 30th place. So after that, kind of clicked it in high gear. And I think, the first day, only half the competitors have shot those stages. But on the first day afterwards, I had like 5 stage wins after the 3 complete bombs.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I figured it out. I got what Sean was trying to beat into me a year ago, and it clicked. Right. But it was just a mental game plan. So that's actually what I'm going to focus on more in my practice versus just pressing the trigger, of putting so much more emphasis into what I'm actually doing mentally prior to, quote unquote, the bang.
Okay. I'd love to know, I'd like to shift a little bit, pivot. Yeah. I want to come back to this, but looking back as someone who had such a drastic change in your performance in a short period of time, what would you tell yourself now when you were just beginning USPSA with the knowledge you have?
Focus on all of the small details that make the shooting happen. So instead of looking at it from I want to place here, or I want to do this well, how does that process work? So from the very beginning, so like in your visualization before the buzzer goes off, figuring out what the trigger is going to feel like for every single target on the stage. What is your dot or your sight's going to look like on each given target? So I've got a 5-yard open target. I can be a little looser with my sights, but I still need to know exactly what my sights are going to look like for that target. How does the tension in my hands feel? How low am I going to be in this position? How do I get out of this position? So every single little detail, don't skip over it because it's something that you've practiced so much it comes naturally. Make sure that your brain has been pre-programmed before that buzzer goes off to know exactly where I'm going to look, how it's going to look, how it's going to feel, and what I'm going to do from position to position. So I would go back and tell myself, don't skip those small details that you think are irrelevant in order to try to place in a certain area. If you just execute each one of these small details, you're going to place well because you've executed each one of these fundamental items that has to happen to be successful.
I like that. Could you sum that up into like process over outcome focus?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Focus on just the process of shooting, the process of moving, the process of doing this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing. Your outcome's going to be good.
I like that. Not that it should be summed up, right? I like the explanation because it's really easy to look at someone and say that, because you can say that for any sport, you know what I mean? But breaking it down into the fundamentals, especially for shooting, is very helpful. And I very selfishly asked that as a C-class shooter. I wanted to know that. My goal for this year is at least B class. I need to get on it. But I mentioned to you before this episode, I'm moving soon. I'll be closer to where Lena is. And yeah. I'm excited to have that job perk of training with Lena freaking Michalik. And
yeah, I'm pretty jealous of that one. Your best friend is one of the greatest shooters in the world apparently. So
it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Not gonna lie. Well, if you come to Utah, maybe we can all shoot. But something that's funny is I actually always shoot my best when I'm with her. I don't know what it is. You would think that it would be the opposite, like the pressure would weigh on me, but I always shoot my best. She just always says the right things. She always tells me, she always gives me one thing to focus on. And then when I do, it's it's perfect. And then, yeah, man, I could go down that rabbit hole for a while, but shooting with her is always a blast.
I'd love to shoot with her one time just to see how bad she whoops my behind. But
absolutely, right? Get a little motivation from it. I love it. No, I love that.
She's an amazing shooter and seems to be an amazing person too. So congrats on that friendship.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh no, I definitely won for sure. I love it. I would love to kind of pivot to the concealed carry side of things, not because I don't want to get into competition shooting. You have a perspective that is very unique there. I know I've had quite a few competition shooters on the podcast, but the strides you've made in such little time is so impressive. And I think it's an interesting, almost like case study to be like, what did you do that we all aren't doing kind of thing? But it sounds like you've taken that and you're applying it to that very small percentage you now have to stretch between for master to grandmaster. And it's been really nice to hear your perspective. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I know you share on your page. You've seen you draw from inside the waistband. You train people. I'm sure for concealed carry purposes as well. And I know the right to bear is for that. So how did your journey? When did your concealed carry journey come in? Kind of compared to your competition shooting journey, was it kind of like a parallel experience or different?
So I actually started concealed carrying prior to the competition, and it was competition sort of was a way to make my comfort level higher with carrying concealed. Like I said, I never touched a pistol until I was 21. Not even, I had BB guns and things like that, but I'd never fired a pistol until I was 21 years old in the concealed weapon permit class. So that was my first form of training. And even then I was aware of this was very basic. I don't feel like I have a true understanding of how to safely stick this loaded gun in my pants. So my first education was YouTube. And I believe it was Rob Latham, and he happened to have on a competition rig. I was like, why is this guy? And he was a competition shooter. That was his intro. And that got me into the competition side, but it was really to learn to be more comfortable with handling a firearm and shooting it properly, because I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at first before the class. Somehow I passed just because you have to hit this huge sheet of paper at 3 yards. But I had no idea of how to properly hold the gun or how to properly press the trigger, and found Rob Latham online, and he was teaching me how to press the trigger properly and grip the gun properly. So from there, I learned how to draw faster or draw more efficiently, of just being safe when I'm dry firing and not, having a desk pop in my apartment at the time. So that's kind of how those two worked. And of course, over the years, as I've gotten better with competition, I've, of course, just become a better shooter with my carry gun. And now I try to make it a goal that every time I go to the range, I don't only shoot my competition gun, but I at least try to fire a mag from concealment with my carry gun, so that if I do have that unfortunate incident of having to use my gun in self-defense, it's not well, crap, I haven't fired this little teeny gun in 3 years and I'm hitting the grandma instead of the bad guy.
That's a way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a visual. Yes.
Well,
No, that's very true. Yeah.
Chips instead of bad guy.
Absolutely. I've thought of that before. When I think of a defensive situation, I think of someone that is already closed in the 0 to 5 foot range. I think about that, like, where it's almost like a fight to access my firearm and shoot off a couple rounds, if that's even appropriate for the distance, But I mean, there is that possibility that you do have a little bit of accuracy in there and you don't want to shoot the wrong person. And is your ammo even graded to like stop in the bad person and not go through and hit, someone in the back? So no, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely. It's very truthful. Oh my gosh, no, it's great. Yeah. Okay. So you like to dump at least a mag. Okay. Very cool. When it comes to the way you maintain concealed carry practice on top of competitive shooting, are there any other elements when it comes to like your dry fire routine at home? I know you use Dry Fire King, right? That's something I feel like I see on your page a lot. Is there anything you do there to maintain concealed carry as well? Are you searching for a brand you can trust when it comes to shooting and gun care products? Look no further than Birchwood Casey. Since 1948, serious shooters, avid collectors, and professional gunsmiths have relied on Birchwood Casey. They've been in the game for over 70 years, providing us with products that have stood the test of time. From their legendary True Oil gunstock finish to the dependable Perma Blue, Birchwood Casey's commitment to quality is unmatched. Birchwood Casey has also revolutionized the way we train and improve our shooting skills with their innovative Shoot NC targets. These targets let you see your shots instantly, making it easier than ever to track your progress and become a better marksman. Head over to birchwoodcasey.com today and discover the products that have earned the trust of shooters worldwide. And use code SheShield20 to save 20% on your order and to support the podcast. Again, that's SheShield20, SHESHIELD 20 at checkout. Happy shooting.
So typically, if I have enough time and if I can, especially if I'm going out with the family, I will get reps in with my carry gun. So if I'm carrying appendix that day, I try to do as many dry fire reps before I walk out the door. I would hate to, right now it's a little chilly in South Carolina, so I'd hate to have on a jacket or a hoodie or something. And like I said, that crazy incident pops up where I need to draw my gun. It's my first time of the day getting my hands on the gun or even moving that jacket or the hoodie out of the way, and it doesn't behave as it should. So certain clothing materials fall down too fast or they don't get out of the way. I know it's a very small detail to focus on, but it's one of the things that I learned. Like if I'm wearing a flannel shirt, that thing sometimes gets caught all up in the gun if you really don't get a good purchase on it and keep it out of the way as you're drawing the gun. So I try to do that before I leave the house, just get a few dry reps in before I put my gun on. During dry fire, before I'm done for the evening, I take the competition rig off, throw on the carry rig, get a few dry reps. Man, I can't talk.
It's okay.
Reps, and then then call it a day. But as often as possible, I try to dry fire with the carry setup, just to make sure, because that competition is truly supposed to be a way to support your carry, or if you're a law enforcement or security, it's supposed to be a way to enhance the skills in case you actually need to use that tool in a form of self-defense.
Absolutely. I like that. So what I'm hearing is the actual accuracy, the building the grip, the recoil management, all of that is helped by your competition shooting. But What you do to supplement your concealment is whatever you're wearing that day, you make sure that you're able to access that firearm out of your, under your concealed carry garments and whatever else is in your environment that would affect it. Absolutely. Is that kind of what you're saying? Oh, I really like that. I don't think I've ever heard someone say it so just like, well, yeah. That's a perfect balance to strike. I like that. I feel like this industry gets so caught up in like, competition shooting is not, it's not realistic. And it's like, dude, nobody said it is. Like, we're just talking about the hard skills you can gain from training that. So
supplement whatever you're doing in real life with your gun. So if the vast majority of us are just civilians, so it's to supplement your your comfort level with carrying that gun, your skill and ability with carrying the gun. We're all aware that these static targets and this see-through wall is not conducive to what your house might look like or going in Target or,
Right.
So,
Yes.
has that mindset. You're probably just not our kind of logical person to have that conversation with anyway.
Absolutely.
I'm out.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. The extreme views are always a good red flag. Yeah. Oh man, I really like this answer. I'm going to get to refer people to this episode now for this balance. That's so exciting. Okay. Well, furthermore, when it comes to concealed carry, I asked you before the show if you were okay kind of talking about the fact that you're a father and husband. Yeah. So I would love to know how you've kind of had to shift your ownership of a firearm, first of all. So like having guns in the home, as well as how it's shifted now that you have a dependent when you're out in public. And like, what do you do if you are maybe someone who's drawing gunfire? Like, what have you talked about with your daughter? Just all of that. I would love to know just how you deal with it.
So Grayson is my daughter. She's 5 years old now. So she's very much into the figuring out life sort of stage and will touch and grab everything. So I have, since she was 3, I've gotten her acclimated to going to the gun range. Of course, she's got ear and eye protection, or she'll just sit in the car and watch her Bluey or whatever on the phone. But got her acclimated to dad shooting, and acclimated to understanding what a gun is, what a gun does, and that it's not a toy. So if daddy didn't tell you, come over here and help daddy shoot, or, whatever around guns, that's not for you to touch. And she's pretty good, but she's still 5. So all guns in the house. Like this room is the office. It's got a biometric lock on the door. That door stays shut if I'm not in here, or even if I am in here, I shut it because she's 5 and she'll drive me insane. So that door's got a lock on it. All guns are stored, unloaded, ammo's like locked in the closet. And just being more mindful. So when it was just me and the wife, I came home with my carry gun, I just pop it on the counter. So if a bad guy comes in, I can just grab it off the counter. As soon as she was 2 and able to walk around, that's a no-no. So that goes into I think I have a Voltec or whatever the brand is, and I'll just stick the gun in there. So it still have quick access to it. But yeah, so safety's always been a thing, but it had to get enhanced to make sure that she can never get access to the gun and never have any accidents or anything like that. Cause that would absolutely be the worst day of my life, my wife's life. So that's an absolute no. As far as my shooting life now, my bonding time with her is getting her to come to the gun range. I mean, I'll pick her up from school, and if we don't make the correct turn towards the house, like, Daddy, we going to the gun range? So it's either going out there to clean up after I let certain people use the range, and sometimes they're just not cleaning or putting stuff back. So I'll go up there pretty much every day and check on the range, or training a client, or shooting something myself. I recently got a Ruger 1022 build out, and
nice.
Yeah, it's a nice little build. No, it's actually downstairs.
Okay.
But it's suppressed and shooting subs. So the other day, climbed up on my 4Runner. It's got a rack on top. And brought it with me to the range, and we're shooting off the roof, and she's calling my hits. And yay, you hit it! So it warmed my heart, and I put it on Instagram and Facebook, and everybody loves seeing that one. So yeah, that's my girl. I'm hoping that she wants to be a competitive shooter. It'd be super expensive, but
yeah. Yeah. Very, very different from like volleyball. Yeah. You got your like tennis shoes, knee pads, spandex, and a jersey. And then I think you're set for basically like her lifetime, unless her shoe size changes, which it might. So, it would be very expensive. I'm curious, how would you gauge, as someone who doesn't have kids, this is just like me being naive, how would you gauge her interest in competitive shooting? Do you think you'd like take her to a competition and be like, did you have fun? Or how would you weigh that?
Yeah, it would probably be similar to what I think I'm going to do with her as far as any other sport. So right now she's flipping all over the house, but I think that's just a kid thing. But I'm going to I'm going to let her go to gymnastics and see if does this stick, or hey, let's put a tennis racket in your hand. Let's try soccer. Let's try jiu-jitsu and MMA. That now shooting and jiu-jitsu, MMA/boxing is going to be a non-negotiable. Not, you don't have to compete, but you're going to have to know how to shoot. And you're going to have to learn how to defend yourself. That's a non-negotiable. So at least once a week, you're going to go fight somebody, and once a week you're going to go shoot. Everything else that you want to do is perfectly fine, but daddy's going to feel like he failed you if you don't know how to shoot and you don't know how to fight. Now, of course, she's also going to learn how to fish and to hunt and stuff like that. But yeah, those two are going to be non-negotiables. But yeah, we're just going to try to test the waters and see what sticks. And hopefully this sticks since daddy's doing it all over the place. Again,
I love that.
Expensive, but it'll be a worthwhile expense.
Oh, absolutely. I actually got my black belt with my dad from the age of 13 to 18. That was kind of how we bonded.
Black belt in what?
It's called Musulwan. It's a Korean traditional style martial arts. It's a brother martial arts of Kuksulwan. In fact, two grandmaster brothers split off, and Musulwan was created out of Kuksulwan. I believe that brother, Byung Lee, I'm probably butchering that. He wanted to integrate more weapons training and more modern day fighting, which, I mean, I appreciate. But it still wasn't very modern day. I mean, we were using swords. I was like, this cannot be right. Like, there's no way. But don't get me wrong. There's that viral video of the guy, like, swinging around the sword. Like, I would have been fine against him. You know what I mean? So all that to say, that's what got me started in jiu-jitsu. And then I remember I broke my nose for the first time when I was 13. And my mom...
Multiple.
What'd you say?
I said for the first time, so that means you've done it multiple times?
Yes. So, in fact, I've told the story a few times on the podcast to the point where someone came up to me at the combative summit and they're like, "Are you the girl that broke her nose 5 times and has had 2 nose surgeries?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "Oh, cool. I listened to your podcast." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. Like, I'm so glad I could help you."
So broken nose girl.
Exactly. I'll take it. I mean, it's not like a bad thing to be known for, right? But I remember I came home and, of course, my septum was so deviated and I had all my blood vessels broken and I was holding my nose with like a thing of paper towels, and my mom was like, absolutely not. Because at the time I was getting into competitive violin playing and my mom was like, "You're going to break a finger. I know it." And so I stopped jiu-jitsu for a while, but I was so sad to have stopped it. Looking back as a 13-year-old, the confidence it instilled in me and the relationship between jiu-jitsu and the idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable was so important for me. And I didn't see it at the time. So I love this idea that you're wanting to get her into that. I think even if she doesn't see it right away, she will see it one day. And do you currently train anything like that? No, you said you have a back injury. Are you...
So the back injury happened in 2019, I think, or 2018.
Okay.
It healed up decently enough. By 2022, I actually was brought on to be the wrestling coach for an MMA gym here. And so that kind of got me back into rolling around and loosened me up enough to actually compete it twice. And my coach, Avery, if you ever see this, coach was I love him to death, but he was a butt to me. He's like, "Dude, you're a college wrestler. There's no way I'm putting you in this tournament as a white belt." It's like, dude, I don't even know any submissions. Like, I know a rear naked choke because everybody and their mama knows how to just choke somebody out. But he entered me into my first NAGA tournament in North Carolina as a blue belt. And it was like whatever the stripe system is. I'm sorry, I don't recall, so I don't mean to offend anybody. But if there's 5 stripes, he put me in as like a 4-stripe blue belt. My very first tournament. Luckily, I took second. But I was like, dude, I could barely walk the next day.
Totally fair. At
the time, I was 29. I was like, dude, I'm a 29-year-old dude who hasn't wrestled competitively in like 6-7 years. And you enter me into this tournament as a blue belt, 4-stripe, which is basically the guys who are about to get what's after blue.
Blue is purple.
Purple. So these dudes are basically purple belts who are about to graduate if they beat my behind, essentially.
Right.
they get the belt as the award almost. But yeah, it was fun. So I competed twice, got second at both, unfortunately. But yeah, I haven't competed in probably a year or two. He definitely wants me to come back and compete. He's like, dude, you could do pretty good at Worlds, and I just don't have the energy to put into getting that good that quick. I'm 31 now,
Totally
not old
fair.
man, but I feel 31. So
Yeah. No, totally fair. I mean, yeah, and you're also working towards Grandmaster. I mean, that sounds like a really hard thing to balance. And I feel like that goes back to the question of like, what is your goal, right? Is your goal to be a successful competitive grappler, or is it to just have what you need to be able to hold your own in a combative situation and then like kick butt basically at competition shooting? You know what I mean? Like, I don't
so
know. Is that a goal of yours?
I definitely still have in the back of my mind that I do want to compete at Worlds before I can't compete, if that makes sense.
It does. It
But
does.
my first goal would be to hit Grandmaster first and then shoot at the Grandmaster level at Nationals at least twice. So
Mm.
I would say hopefully this year and then maybe next year. And then I think I'd have the itch scratched to say, okay, excuse me, getting the coffee. I think I'd have that itch scratched enough and feel like I've reached that, quote unquote goal that I wanted to hit there. I'm sure something else will pop up that I want, but then I think I could go and dedicate more time to truly learning the ins and outs of jujitsu. Because again, not to, I'm sounding very arrogant when I keep saying this, but I don't mean to sound
You
arrogant.
really don't, though. I promise. I promise.
I don't mean to sound arrogant, but every time I go into the jujitsu gym, whether it's that one or others, I pretty much hold my own until I reach like the very high level brown and black belt guys, and then they just know too much for me to hold my own for like a full match, and I get tapped out. But for the most part, I can walk in most gyms and still hold my own with just wrestling and the few submissions that I did learn along the way. So hopefully, give me 2 years, maybe we can have another podcast and be like, hey, I'm competing at Worlds this year.
Yeah. So actually, I was going to say, you read my mind.
Uh-oh.
I'd love to have a like Journey to Grandmaster episode. And then we can like replay clips from this episode and be like, and talk about like what your goal was then and kind of how your goal shifted. And maybe it'll work out to when I see you in person.
Yeah,
I,
it happened.
right. I was telling Tre'Von, I've been going down in North Carolina a bit to hang out with the Classic Firearms guys. So apparently that's not too far from you.
Yeah, I just saw them I saw them Monday actually. They were filming at my range.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that would be cool if we made that. I could even tell Ryan, like, I could be like, hey, man, I really want to meet him. If we could just plan to be on his range and all work together, that would be so much fun. Okay.
Oh, yeah. They're so easy to work with. It's ridiculous. I like those guys a lot.
I like them too. And I appreciate the way they work with myself as a female. I know that that's like kind of I don't know, it's kind of like a dumb moment. Like, yeah, I mean, of course that's going to be a dynamic, but it's like,
I understand what you mean.
That's not an industry standard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're super
You're
professional.
the perfect person to insert into Classic Firearms.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. I'm not going to send this episode to Ryan at all and be like, listen to Mark, like what, 45 or something?
Well, if you do, I think Ryan would be making a bad decision if they didn't bring you on to Classic Firearms.
Oh, okay. You hear that, Ryan? I'm just kidding. I just
off, Ryan.
That's awesome. No, I hope it works out. Yeah, I really do. But yes, okay, back to you. So I feel like this is the perfect time to talk about what you do in marketing. We talked about Right to Bear a little bit before.
Yeah.
And it sounds like something for the listener. If you're someone who either doesn't have concealed carry insurance or you are not even sure what to ask about such a thing, this is a great time if you've been kind of, focused on the road right now while you're driving to kind of tune in and hear this, because there are some things that he mentioned before we started the episode that I had not even considered about it's not an insurance brand. I accidentally called it that, but more of an association. So, I'm going to let you do your job and tell me about Right to Bear. I'm going to stop talking now.
No, you're good.
That was the worst lead up in the world. Please tell me about Right to Bear.
Perfectly fine. So my 9 to 5 day job is actually at Right to Bear. Right to Bear is essentially of course, we're going to say it's the best legal defense for any form of self-defense out there. So when we say any form, some of our competitors, they will cover you legally. So any legal charges you might have, they'll cover you legally for using a firearm in self-defense, where our main difference is we will cover all acts of self-defense. So you run somebody over with your car in self-defense because they were trying to carjack you or, steal a young lady or maybe a young man, and you run them over with the car Right to Bear, we're going to cover you. If your significant other attacks you in your apartment with a knife and you hit them over the head with a bag of avocados and you get charged with a crime, we're going to cover you. I only bring that up because that's a real case that we had.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, so it was a domestic dispute. Actually, the young lady attacked the young man with a knife. Cornered him in the kitchen. The only thing that he had at his disposal was apparently a bag of unripened avocados, and he clocked her over the head with them.
Good.
He actually called 911, and they arrested him for assault and battery and charged him. So when all the facts came out, apparently she had a substance abuse issue. Maybe was on that substance at the time, and just took him under knife, I guess. And he defended himself. So we defended him, got him out of jail, and took care of that for him. But yeah, so it's all acts of self-defense. So if you're not a gun guy or girl, but you believe in defending yourself as all people should, we will cover anything that you might get charged with. Because unfortunately, a lot of people aren't aware that if you use self-defense, or especially if a firearm comes into play, a lot of people get charged with assault and battery or attempted murder or whatever the case may be, whatever the charge is. So Right to Bear is going to essentially be there to cover you, get you out of jail, provide you a lawyer. If your gun is taken during the investigation, we'll provide you a new gun. And if your gun is given back, you keep both. Our other biggest differences is our price. We pride ourselves on being the most cost effective in the industry, and it truly wasn't to undercut any other players or by design, but because we focused on the pure essentials of coverage, we were able to trim those costs and give them back to our members. What else? Trying to go over our differences, because I know there's many other players. No recoupment clause. So if I go to court and Right to Bear's covering me, they provide my lawyer, but for whatever reason we lose the case. Our contract says never, ever is there a recoupment clause. So all the attorney fees and expenses that were brought in, I'm not on the hook for that. Whereas a lot of our competitors have it written into their contract that you could be required to repay all those legal expenses, which I know I don't have an easy $100,000 in lawyer fees and expert witnesses and all that stuff to pay out. So that's kind of who we are, what we do. And that's what we stand for is if you call Right to Bear, we're going to be there to take care of our people.
I love that. And how did you come across Right to Bear?
So I actually met Frank. He's the owner and president of Right to Bear. He's co-owner with Perry. Going to SHOT Show last year, our flights got sent up to Chicago. He's in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm a Rock Hill. I flew out of Charlotte. But our flights got routed to Chicago and then canceled. And the only thing they had was to get to Phoenix. So we said, what's the closest place we can get to Las Vegas? They said, Phoenix. I met him. I was like, hey, dude, you're going to Phoenix too? You want to rent a car together? I had no idea who the guy was. We rented a car.
Whoa.
Apparently he's like a world-class singer. He's been on Broadway and all other kind of stuff too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Frank's amazing. But
yeah. Did he sing for you?
What's that?
Did he sing for you in the car?
He absolutely did. It was a 5
No way.
He had a lot of laughs and singing. I'm not a singer at all.
That's so cool. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so he's an amazing singer, but sang, and we just kind of rode to Vegas, and he asked me hey, what do you do? What's your day job? I told him at the time I was teaching and then was in the construction business actually. Just got to talking, and about a month after SHOT Show called me and said, hey, come down to Columbia, let's chat. And then I think 3 months after that, we were working together. So it's kind of a accidental connection.
Yeah, it sounds like it's good that plane got
Yeah, yeah,
Delayed/canceled. Okay, so what were you doing at SHOT Show? Working in construction and doing competition
yeah,
shooting on the side, or?
yeah. So that was
Okay.
I was teaching very heavily last year and years before, like traveling around the country. I went to SHOT Show just under my own brand, Barber Training Solutions,
Mm-hmm.
just to make connections and hang out with friends who said, "Hey, man, you got to go to SHOT Show. It's the coolest place, for the gun industry." So I just was going just to go and see what would happen, and that happened. So
Oof, I love that. What a cool story. Yeah, I'll have to tell my sister. I'll tell my sister about that. What's his full name? Are you okay to share that?
yeah, Frank Cannon.
Frank Cannon. Okay, Frank
Yeah.
Cannon. I'll have to tell her about that. She's in her doctorate for opera right now, and she loves
Oh,
all things
nice.
Broadway and opera and symphony, and yeah.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
right, she's very cool. Okay, so for those listening that are curious about uh, right to bear, say they already have a policy like USCCA or CCW Safe, some of the major players there. Um, and they don't know what questions to ask when it comes to like, ooh, like I don't really know my policy very well. Like, what
Yeah,
should I even be asking about my policy? Or maybe this is someone listening that doesn't have anything to
yeah.
protect them. What would you say the most important questions to ask are?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a new one.
Well, we
Um,
talked a little bit about those loopholes that can kind of bite you. So I don't know if that's something you want to talk about, but
yeah.
yeah,
So I'm not the most read up on everybody's policies, but
sure.
some of the ones who've been looped under like insurance, depending on what state you're in and the black and white. Right to Bear went the association route because lots of self-defense incidents are in the gray. So like, say somebody kicks in your door, or somebody's kicking your door, it's dark, crazy chaos, you grab your gun to defend yourself and you shoot whoever's there because you're scared and they're in your house and you feel threatened. Maybe lights come on or whatever the case is, and somebody is shot in the back. So from say our standpoint, it's like you shot somebody in the back who's trying to get away from you. That's completely illegal. That's a no-no, but that's in the gray. You were fearing for your life. You had no idea what was going on. It was dark. People are all over the place. And I say people because most of these bad guys are cowards and they come in twos or threes. So you never know how many people might be coming through that door. Um, certain contracts or clauses who are written under insurance might say, because you didn't follow the laws of self-defense inside of these black and white lines, you were charged with a crime. Technically, you can't insure a criminal act. We can just not cover you. We're just going to drop that client. Whereas right to bear, you defended yourself inside your home. You were fearful. It was a gray situation, but we're going to defend you in court. We're not going to drop you. That's why you trusted us to be your coverage carrier, and we're going to do our job. So if you have any sort of self-defense incident, you're scared, it was a gray sort of maybe sort of situation, right to bear is going to cover you. Whereas some of our competitors, this is just kind of out there now, have kind of gotten beaten up a bit for dropping their clients in cases that looked a little gray, if that makes sense, not just black and white. So I'd say look at your contracts, see if there's a recoupment clause, see if there's any stipulations on coverage. If this happens, then this. Yeah, I think that would be the main two. Is definitely check the contracts. Definitely or call your carrier and say, hey, if this happens, am I covered? We are going to flat out just tell you, yes, you're going to be covered. If there's any kind of maybe or well, it might be time to look elsewhere or double up on coverage. We're happy to be a coverage carrier for others who already have another policy.
Absolutely. And that was actually what I was going to ask you next. Like maybe someone's listening and they find that there's a loophole they're not comfortable with, and but they're committed maybe to like an annual, or they're not ready to leave that policy. Is there any downside to doubling up?
I'm sure somebody could try to find a downside, but I don't see one. Whether you have USCCA, CCW Safe, US Law Shield, whomever, you also have right to bear. If you call us and say, hey, this incident happens, I need your help, we're going to say, okay, we've got your back. Whether you need our lawyers to help you out. If you have your own, we're happy to do that. However, that's another question we get all the time is, hey, I have your coverage, but are you going to pay for the lawyer that I want? Yes, we will. However, we've kind of done all the hard work for you and found lawyers in all 50 states that are 2A specific lawyers and who are specialists in self-defense cases. So yeah, you're more than welcome to use whoever you like, but we've kind of done the homework for you to try to help out in that situation.
Ooh, I like that. Very cool. Well, you've got me convinced. I'm definitely, I like to do my own reading, of course, but I will absolutely link you all in the show notes. And for those that are listening and interested, is the best way for them to go about getting in touch with you all your website, or is there anything
They can
else?
go to protectwithbear.com.
Okay.
They can shoot me a direct email, Tre'Von.barber@protectwithbear.com. And Tre'Von's Trevon.barber, Barber. They can shoot us a DM on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Where else? Yeah.
Okay. No, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for taking the time to explain that, because I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen it a little bit on your page, but I wasn't super familiar with it before. So I'm excited that we got to talk about it. And hopefully I get to meet more of you guys when I travel out there. It's always... Say it again.
Said our team would love to have you down in Columbia. Come grab some lunch or something.
Ooh,
we might make happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to connect you to Eliza, because that would just be such a cool connection. But yeah. Okay. So I'd love to know, the only other thing I wrote down is what's the story behind the logo? Because I love bees personally. So your logo, sorry, let me clarify. Yes. Yeah. So Barber Training Solutions. Yeah. For those of you that haven't seen it, it's basically a honeybee, right?
I don't know if it's kind of blown out here.
Oh, maybe. Nice. Okay, it's on your hat. I like it. For those listening, he is showing his hat right now.
Sorry, I forgot we've got listeners. But the story on the bee is, it started out when I was a teenager working with my grandfather. We used to build decks and like woodworking stuff for people around town. Well, we moved this piece of wood one time, and like I got stung, I think it was something like 16 or 17 times, and he was stung over 20 plus times. That sounds weird. Wait for it, it's coming. So when I got into the firearms instruction world, I was trying to look for a logo that was black and gold. I love a black and gold theme, as is most of the guns on the wall, as you see black and gold. I was like, man, what's a black and gold thing? And the closest I could get to was a bee. It's like, okay, bees are cool, but behind it, it was the hive sort of mindset of we mess with basically one bee, essentially. Or if you screw with one bee, you're about to get your behind whooped by this entire community who backs that bee or that person. So I like that of this. I wanted to build a community, like a tight knit group or a circle, that if you screw with this person or you do bad by this person that we care about, watch out, because this entire hive of people care about everybody in this community. We're going to take care of one another. So over time, I've learned that that's kind of the gun community in general, that kind of one is all, that we take care of our own. It's a family oriented thing. So that's the story behind the bee. If you mess with one, you got to deal with the entire family. That's wonderful. Oh, I like that so much. Yeah. And I didn't even prompt you for that before the episode. I just kind of threw that at you. So that was a wonderful story. Yeah. Anytime I see bees, I see it as a good sign. I mean, do I run from them? Absolutely. But, typically I see it as a good sign. My joke with my family is I would rather fight a person than fight something that flies and stings. But in this case, I'm with you there. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. I look forward to having you back on, whether that be we're on the range and shooting and recording an episode, or we're just in person sitting, or even back virtually. I'm excited to hear what 2025 has in store for you, because it sounds like you're being very intentional with your goals, and I just can't see them not coming true. I see things working out very well for you. So I'm glad we made this episode finally happen. I know, right? Yes, absolutely. I know. Were you at SHOT Show? Yeah, I was. It was, crazy SHOT Show. I think I might have saw you like in passing, but I was walking really fast to a meeting I was late for, and you look like you were doing the same.
Classic.
There's Sophia.
Classic.
Let me keep going.
Yep. And also, I walk around. I know there are people out there who think I'm the rudest person alive, because when I'm focused on going somewhere and I have like anxiety going on, which is 99.8% of the time, my vision is so tunneled and I'm so driven focused. So I know that I walked past people that I probably had just even like hung out with and then just like did not see them. And that's also like my worst nightmare, in ignoring someone or making them feel unseen or something like that. So it doesn't couple well, but anyway, I look forward to actually meeting you in person. It is a mess. I don't think I've recovered still. But anyway, yeah, we'll have to have a whole episode on how to navigate SHOT Show. Right. Before we go today, I would love to know what you would like to leave the listeners with, if you don't mind.
You ask some really good questions that make you think.
I'm so glad. I think that's my job or something, so that's good.
Yep, no, you do your job very well. I'll give you that. I would say kind of what I'm going to be doing is pick a goal or pick something that you'd like to hit and set out a dedicated, structured plan to make that goal happen. And hopefully you hit it by that deadline or sooner. So that's what I'm going to do. Have a very strategic and methodical method of getting to wherever it is you're trying to get to.
I like that.
Will happen. And take the risk. So like me going to SHOT Show last year, I wasn't going to go. Flight got sent to Chicago and I thought it was, oh man, I really shouldn't have came. And everything worked out for the better. So take the risk.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I kind of want to selfishly ask you before we go, just out of curiosity, as someone who's where I'm at in C class, sitting very comfortably there, might I add, what would you say a good frequency of training is to go from like C to B class?
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a very general question, but do you have any insight you'd want to throw my way before we get off of here?
I would say dry fire is free. So I would do it every single day to truly get all of the fundamentals, subconscious and second nature. I think that's a great starting point. That's what I did. That got me, I think I classified as B class doing it that way, and very quickly hit master from hours upon hours of dry fire, to where essentially you do those items so often it's almost impossible to get it wrong.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And do you recommend Dry Fire King, by the way? I see it on your page and okay. Okay, cool. Dry
Fire King is awesome, especially for like me. We've got a decently sizable living room, but everybody doesn't have a huge living room or living space. Dry Fire King gives you full stages over like a 15-20 minute video. You can dry fire your behind off. I think there's something like 50 or 60 episodes now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Definitely do that. Or dry fire targets, decals. So selfish plug, I sell dry fire decals that are movable all around your house.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Move fast, don't suck. So just kind of rip that off the wall. And you can,
nice. Oh, they're decals. I don't know why I was like still picturing the little cardboard thingies that I have. No, they're like, they stick to things.
Yeah, they stick to, and they're infinitely removable. Just don't put them on like fresh-ish paint. I learned that the hard way. It will take that right off. So
right.
Stick it on there.
Well, you never have to learn it again. That's good. And you learn for all of us. So, and now you can put that on your website. It works out. Very cool. Well, we'll link those in the show notes. Are those available?
Yep.
Is that okay on your website?
Don't suck. Yeah, he sells a lot of stuff, but the dry fire decal is one of the items that he kind of drop ships for me.
Oh, fun. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll link it in the show notes then. That's very cool. Yeah, the cardboard ones are nice, but you then have to like find tape and then stick them to your wall and then hope the tape doesn't fall, and it's a whole process. So that would be nice.
Like me and stick a bunch of pins all in your apartment wall, and then you have to go over it before you move out.
Exactly. Lame. Yeah. No, I love that. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We'll have to get that part 2 going. For those of you that are interested in looking up Tre'Von, I will also have all of his socials linked in the show notes.
I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. For those of you listening that would like to see the video version of the podcast, you can head over to YouTube. I always forget to say that in the beginning. So if you're listening and you're like, well, crap, that's okay. You can go listen again. That's totally fine. Otherwise, we have shorts on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, of course, made by the lovely Lisa Hamilton. All resources mentioned will be linked in the show notes, which are the notes below the title. And if you like the podcast, you can help us by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review. This episode, along with the others, are mixed and mastered by Brendan Galanos. And if you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you. Thank you for listening. In the meantime, stay safe and stay vigilant. Attention all knife enthusiasts. Today's episode is sponsored by the one and only Cold Steel Knives. For over 3 decades, Cold Steel has been leading the way in the knife industry, dedicated to creating the world's strongest and sharpest blades. They've pioneered countless innovations that have become industry hallmarks of quality and sophistication, from their revolutionary checked Kraton handles to the iconic Tonto point blade systems. Cold Steel's progressive accomplishments have set new standards in the field. Their trademark triad locking mechanism remains unrivaled by any of their competitors, proving its unbeatable performance time and time again. Their impressive lineup goes beyond just knives. They offer swords, tomahawks, machetes, cutlery, and a wide range of tools for everyday carry. Trusted by military, law enforcement, emergency services, self-defense professionals, and martial arts practitioners, Cold Steel is renowned for quality, strength, reliability, and dependability. Where strength, safety, and performance come together for over 3 decades and counting. Use code SHESHIELD20, that's SHESHIELD 20, again, SHESHIELD20 at checkout.